Chapter 6 The Kingdom of Pineal Manifesto Blueprint. Administrative name: Paraíso Imensurável Association. Postal abbreviation: P.I. Administrative code: 3.144. Trading body: Pineal Foundation. Native custodian: Pineal Pioneer. Administrative anthem: Pioneer's Anthem. Pineal Pillars motto: honor, earth, abundance, respect, trust. Heart. Pineal royal color: purple. Pineal sacred plant: pine tree. Pineal royal food: pineapple. Administrative currency: pine coin. See flag. Kingdom of Pineal Social Development. Our social development plan is fundamentally centered around community-based models of society, founded on the principles of equitable and self-sustainable living. This self-sustainable socio-economic plan is established on the consideration of how we manage the social, structural, and environmental impacts of our intended developmental projects. The initiative is to create environmentally conscious communities which complement the natural environment of that community, thus ensuring sustainable development that is built to last in a fair and equitable way. Our plan is based around three key components we call the symbiotic structure: symbiotic locations, symbiotic environments, and symbiotic energy. In essence, our main developmental goal is to demonstrate an economical use of native natural resources and respond to climatic conditions using eco-friendly design principles that provide human comfort. These design principles are consistent with the form, orientation, and materiality of the habitat. The combination of social, functional, and environmental considerations reveals a well-balanced symbiotic relationship between us humans and the natural habitat of our Earth. Instead of imposing on nature, our development emanates from it and works with it. Symbiotic locations. Choosing symbiotic locations means finding quality locations and landscapes that enhance self-sustainable practices of living. Location, infrastructure, and landscape quality are fundamental in creating desirable places to live and work. The ultimate goal is to creatively maximize natural habitats into becoming suitable future-proof communities. This includes, but is not limited to, considering extreme weather hazards, plant and animal biodiversity, ground and soil quality, existing natural symbiotic systems, and much more. In essence, the question that must always be asked is, what are the ecological considerations and wider landscape impacts of our development, and how will this development support and self-sustain the local community at large? Symbiotic environments. Another fundamental factor to consider is the environmental management, which includes the various factors associated with development. A good example is the symbiotic relationship between the land, water, and human footprint of any development site. It is always important to factor in our human impact on the microclimate as a direct result of our living and working developmental systems. It will be the responsibility of local stakeholder communities, designers, developers, and engineers to ensure that future resources respond to wider environmental challenges and opportunities. This can only be achieved when the initial infrastructure is built to be resilient by identifying and mitigating potential risks to any such development at an early stage, as well as investigating and preempting solutions. These might include, but are not limited to, ensuring sustainable urban and rural waste management systems, like drainage and recycling, without creating a detrimental impact on the existing natural symbiotic micro and macro ecosystem. Symbiotic energy. Fundamental to any successful self-sustainable community is energy efficiency. This can only be sustainable long-term through the conscious support and engagement of the local community. Education is key. It is the duty of any community to find and establish systems that complement and/or enhance symbiotic energy production, use, and resourcefulness in symbiotic harmony with their environment. Investigating and establishing energy solutions at an early stage will inform decisions on the scale, shape, and form of development. Different locations and environments will need to be approached as individual projects dependent heavily on energy factors. Options for shared self-sustaining localized and community renewable projects include but are not limited to solar power, hydropower, geothermal and wind power. Independently, each of these components is powerful, but collectively, if implemented correctly, they have the potential to shape and inspire resilient, self-sustainable communities on a micro and macro level indefinitely for future generations. Cultural Development Plan. Culture is generally defined as the set of distinctive spiritual, material, intellectual, and emotional features of society, community, or social group. This includes, but is not limited to, art and literature, lifestyles, ways of living together, value systems, traditions, and beliefs. Culture is at the heart of any society's identity, social cohesion, and the development of a knowledge-based economy. Therefore, as an inclusive sovereign kingdom, it is essential to ensure harmonious interaction among people and groups with plural, varied, and dynamic cultural identities, as well as their willingness to live together. In this sense, cultural diversity is the common heritage of humanity, and it should be recognized and affirmed for the benefit of present and future generations. Education plan, creativity, information, and organic technology. Intellectual property in the form of information and technology is a key cornerstone to any society's progressive plans. Data is a form of currency. More importantly, naturally harnessed organic intellectual property is far more self-sustainably resilient. This type of progressive intellect can only be harnessed within a community by stimulating and nurturing free and creative thought processes. Education programs with this in mind will be at the center of the kingdom's education development plan. Our core educational emphasis will be to teach children how to think and not what to think. Each child's education plan will be approached individually, ensuring that every child learns the basic human social skills of counting, reading, and writing. In addition to this, our education curriculum will also have a strong focus on harnessing and cultivating each child's natural passions and core strengths. It is much easier to excel at something you are naturally good at and passionate about, working smart and not hard. It will also have a focused initiative on encouraging natural and organic spaces, methods, environments, resources, and techniques of learning and teaching. Community wealth and equity. The PI socioeconomic plan is based on principles of decentralization, open free markets, and fair trade enterprise. The PI economy will be stimulated and driven by quality skilled craftsmanship, open source technology, and intellectual property systems, natural and organic products and services. The first task of establishing a resilient, viable, and sustainable economic plan is to maximize efficiency of whatever resources are readily available. We have 6 key stages of strategy: census identification, project planning, regulation, quantitative distribution, regeneration, and equity share. Kingdom of Pineal Social Economic Plan Strategy. Census identification. One of the very first tasks of our strategy will be to conduct a census of all our available human resources within the macro kingdom as well as on a micro community scale. Strategic consensus between the administrative body and the communities of the kingdom is key to success. This means efficiently identifying the skills and talents of the people, as well as the industrial and environmental potential of the community's chosen settlement. Project planning. The next step will be to identify and plan a variety of suitable generative projects for each community, matched by the individual and collective skills and talents of the community. These projects will be meticulously well-planned, generative models based on the ethos, tenets, and laws of the kingdom. All residents of any chosen community will share an equal stake in all community-based projects based on our Pi Energy Generative Gift Program, PEGG program. The PEGG program. The PEG program is established on the principle of all members of the community gifting their energy, skills, and talents to help generate collective wealth and abundance for their individual lives, communities, and kingdom at large. Each member of the community will pledge a set minimum weekly or monthly amount of their time, energy, and skills towards various community generative projects. This creates a powerful free labor force inspired by the ethos and values of community abundance created through common unity. This cooperative labor force will allow for free, abundant, equitable distribution of goods and produce for all members of the community who participate. Quantitative distribution. This next stage of the program will involve the community analyzing how much as a collective they will consume of everything they produce. Then, using our unique quantitative scaling system, they will produce at least 3 times more than they need. 1/3 for consumption, 1/3 for reserves, 1/3 for regeneration, trade, and export. However, it is important to remember that this quantitative scaling equation will only be relatively utilized with appropriate proportion to the balance of the local natural resources. This is in accordance with the KOP tenets and laws of honoring and respecting the earth entrusted unto us. Surplus reservation and regeneration. Surplus regeneration is all about managing excess production. As with all self-sustainable systems, production, consumption, and regeneration must always be kept in symbiotic balance with the local natural environment. A well-managed economic production system should organically meet our 3-tier quantitative scaling system of consumption, reserve, and regenerate. Whatever is surplus production will always first be considered for community charitable reservation before it's considered for regenerative trade and export. Whatever is left for regeneration is traded to the open market of neighboring communities and even exported beyond the kingdom's territories if feasible and viable. Equity share. Since our kingdom is founded on the principles of equality through abundance, profit is not an objective our kingdom's socioeconomic system would strive for. As a cooperative-based society, community wealth over individual wealth will always be the main objective. It will always be in the best interests of all parties of the kingdom to focus their individual vested interests in the growth of the collective rather than the individual. Whatever surplus is regenerated will always be redistributed into the kingdom from the bottom up, meaning all surplus produce must always first be equitably distributed to vested interest individual communities, and then funneled down to the larger administrative bodies of the kingdom. In this system, the power and wealth is in the hands of the people rather than in the hands of the administrated governing bodies. In this system, the power and wealth is in the hands of the people rather than in the hands of administrative governing bodies. This then means that the more successful individual communities are, the abundantly wealthier the kingdom will become. Gross economic assimilation and regulation systems. Gears. Within our society, wealth and equity will be distributed, shared, and valued on time and energy expenditure rather than on ownership. This is in line with the ethos and spirit of our founding tenets and moral laws. Since we as humans are custodians in trust of whatever upon the earth we choose to settle, there will be no ownership of natural resources. This includes land and any other such associated natural resources. Instead, all equitable resources will be classed as shared equity in trust of whatever individual, society, or community is coexisting in ethos with the Kingdom of Pineal tenets and laws. However, as with all progressive societies, the kingdom will have economically viable trading solutions to allow for the currency of energy and time to be efficiently exchangeable. This, of course, means an officially recognizable tradable currency used as a medium form of energy exchange between two or more parties within internal and external trading markets. Pi digital currency. The Pine cryptocurrency, also known as the Pi coin, will be a digitized version of the physical Pine coin. The digital Pine coin will be intrinsically backed by the value of the physical Pine coin, meaning the number of digital Pine coins in circulation must always reflect the number or value of physical Pine coins in reservation and/or circulation. This digital version of the Pine coin will not be in competition with the physical Pine coin, but instead will complement it as an easier form of tradable currency. The same socioeconomic laws regulating the physical Pine currency will apply to the digital crypto equivalent. This medium of currency will primarily serve as a technological tool to enhance economic trade efficiency. The implementation, application, and effectiveness of this digital currency will sustainably rely on the resources and infrastructure available to implement and manage these systems. Pi physical currency. Our physical currency will materialize as recognizable and officially regulated minted coins known as Pine coins. Pine coins will be minted and regulated by the Kingdom of Pineal's administrative governing body, Paraíso Imensurável. This central regulation of currency will not be based on legislative or legal economic policies, but rather on the values of fair equity and trust in line with the founding tenets of the kingdom. The duty of the Pi financial administrative body will only be to monitor and manage financial operating systems and methods in line with trading standards agreed upon. Values and denominations of Pine coins will be regulated based on 3 criteria: type of metal minted, valued, and regulated, according to perceived intrinsic value, as a precious metal in accordance with world-accepted standards and values. Availability of coins in circulation relative to supply and demand. This applies internally within the kingdom as well as externally. Size and weight of the minted coin relative to its perceived intrinsic value as a precious metal, in accordance with the world's accepted standards. Kingdom of Pineal Social Economic Plan, Revenue GDP. Organic agriculture can be defined as an integrated farming system that strives for sustainability, the enhancement of soil fertility and biological diversity, whilst prohibiting synthetic pesticides, antibiotics, synthetic fertilizers, genetically modified organisms, and growth hormones. This agricultural ethos is in line with the Kingdom of Pineal tenets and laws of living. Food production is at the center of the Pi Kingdom's wealth GDP. As a result, at the top of our technological and educational programs is self-sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture is farming in sustainable ways, which means meeting society's food and textile needs without compromising ecological symbiosis and resilience for future generations to meet their needs. When developing agriculture within sustainable food and textile systems, it is important to develop flexible production, processing, and farming practices in harmony with the land's local ecological systems. If not properly managed, agriculture has the potential to cause an enormous environmental footprint, playing a significant role in causing microclimate change, water scarcity, land degradation, deforestation, and other processes. Developing sustainable food and textile systems contributes to the sustainability of the society's human population in ratio to its resources. Sustainable agriculture provides a potential solution to enable agricultural systems to feed a growing population within the changing environmental conditions of any given local society. The majority of the kingdom's resources will be invested in ecosystem services, biodiversity, land regeneration, and sustainable land management practices and technologies. These include the economics of ecosystems, biodiversity study, and the economics of land regeneration initiatives. A sustainable future can be feasible if growth in material consumption is in proportion with population growth, which means efficiency of material and energy use. To make that transition, long and short-term goals will need to be balanced, enhancing equity and quality of life. Social Administrative Plan. Libertarian Socialism. The Kingdom of Pineal was founded on libertarian ideals based on individual and collective social trust. As a result, our socio-political and economic policies reflect this founding philosophy. Our political structure can be best described as libertarian socialism, meaning our social ethos is based on a non-hierarchical and non-bureaucratic system without private property in the means of production. Anything created or produced within the kingdom is generally classed as common or public property. However, it is also important to note that all property in the kingdom is also generally classed as being in trust of someone's care and/or responsibility. This is not the same as ownership, but rather more of custodianship. Our libertarian socialist approach is opposed to coercive forms of social organization. Instead, we promote free association in place of government and oppose the social relations of capitalism, such as wage labor. Libertarian socialism is not the same as state socialism, as it is a socialistic structure engineered, orchestrated, and managed by the people and not the administrative state. It is purely based on free will, honor, mutual respect, liberty, and collective trust. Accordingly, we believe that the exercise of power in any institutionalized form, whether economic, politically, religiously, or sexually biased, spiritually corrupts both the wielders of perceived power and the one over whom it is being exercised on. Equitable governance. The Kingdom of Pineal's approach to governance is based on decentralized means of direct democracy, such as libertarian municipalities, custodians' assemblies, and community councils. Our ethos, morals, and principles are strongly critical of coercive institutions. Thus, decentralization of political and economic power is paramount, which usually involves the socialization of most large-scale property and enterprise, whilst also retaining respect for personal custodianship. Like most forms of libertarian socialism, the Kingdom of Pineal discourages economic structures and systems that promote ideals of private ownership of property. Like most forms of libertarian socialism, the Kingdom of Pineal discourages economic structures and systems that promote ideals of private ownership of property. We instead replace ownership with trustees, an individual custodianship of collective wealth. We view capitalistic ideals and relations as forms of domination that are antagonistic to individual freedoms within an equitable collective sovereign state. Subsidiarity political model. Subsidiarity is a principle of social organization that upholds the ideal that social and political issues within a society should be dealt with at the most immediate or local level, as opposed to from a central governing body down. This system of governance encourages consistent resolution on a microcosmic level within the macrocosm of the larger body of society. The Kingdom of Pineal has adopted the principle of subsidiarity as its preferred form of social governance. Subsidiarity aim. The general aim of the principle of subsidiarity is to guarantee a degree of independence for a lower authority in relation to a higher body or for a local authority in relation to central government. At the heart of this form of governance is decentralization of power away from the larger administrative body and then into the hands of community local authorities. It therefore involves the sharing of powers between several levels of authority, a principle which forms the institutional basis for a free and sovereign state or kingdom. This form of socio-political governance has a key administrative and civic value since it increases the opportunities for custodians to take interest in public affairs. It makes them get accustomed to exercising their universal and natural freedoms. This is in accordance with the Kingdom of Pineal tenets and moral laws. Decentralized free markets. Another key factor within our structure will be technological decentralization. Technological decentralization defined as a shift from concentrated to distributed modes of production and consumption of goods and services. Technology includes tools, materials, skills, techniques, and processes by which goals are accomplished within community project spheres. Technologies often mentioned as best implemented in a decentralized manner include water purification, delivery and wastewater disposal, agricultural technology, and energy technology. Advancing technology may allow decentralized and free market solutions for what may otherwise be centralized government-controlled public services, such as utilities producing and/or delivering power, water, banking, mail, and telecommunications. However, It is also important to acknowledge that a kingdom cannot operate efficiently without some form of centralized administration, particularly where bipartisan communities need to cross-pollinate resources. This includes resources like economic and trade regulations, regulation of the kingdom's spiritual and political observance, postal and communication systems, and the kingdom's health and safety protocols. This exception also applies where community affairs affect state affairs. In this case, the state administration supersedes the subsidiary community system. Principal structure of decentralization. In principle, a subsidiarity system should uphold that no public agency should do what a private agency can do better, and that no higher level public agency should attempt to do what a lower level agency can do better. In effect, a successful government is one that does the least amount of governing, only acting or fulfilling an administrative role. Decentralization or decentralizing governance refers to the restructuring or reorganization of authority so that there is a system of co-responsibility between institutions of governance at the central, regional, and local levels according to principle of subsidiarity, thus increasing the overall quality and effectiveness of the system of governance, while increasing the authority and capacities of subnational, community, and local levels. The accumulation of local and active self-governance not only promotes freedoms, but it also promotes an efficient counterweight against the central established government from imposing an impersonal rule against the collective will. Possible hazards. However, it is important to note some hazards associated with decentralized subsidiarity governance. When a genuinely efficacious economic principle is recognized by a higher political entity, but not all subsidiary entities, implementation of that principle can be delayed at the more local level. In areas where the local use of common resources has a broad regional or even world impact, higher levels of authority may have a natural mandate to supersede local authority. This has the potential to upset the balance of governance. Where there is a weak local administrative or technical capacity, which may result in inefficient or ineffective services. Where there are inadequate resources available to perform new local responsibilities, especially in the startup phase when they are most needed, or inequitable distribution of resources. Decentralization can also make national policy coordination too complex. It may allow local rogue parties to capture functions, meaning local cooperation may be undermined by any distrust between community members. Decentralization may also result in higher enforcement costs and conflict for resources if there is no higher level of authority to adjudicate or administer. Decentralization may not be as efficient for standardized, routine, network-based services, as opposed to those that need more complicated inputs. If there is a loss of economies of scale in procurement or labor distribution or resources, community structure and the central kingdom's administration may weaken or even collapse. Other challenges and even dangers include the possibility that corrupt local bodies can capture regional or local power centers, while constituents lose representation. Patronage politics can become rampant and custodian constituents may become compromised. This is likely to happen where incomplete information and hidden decision-making can occur up and down community hierarchies. Community centralized power centers can find reasons to frustrate decentralization and bring power back to themselves. In this instance, trust, honor, and respect is lost. It is also worth considering that while decentralization may increase productive efficiency, it may also undermine allocative efficiency by making redistribution of resources more difficult. Decentralization can cause greater disparities between resource-abundant and resource-poor regions, especially during times of crisis when the kingdom's administration may not be able to help regions needing it. Solutions to possible hazards. The Kingdom of Pineal recognizes and preempts the following 8 essential preconditions that must be ensured while implementing decentralization in order to avert the dangers of decentralization. In each case, the goal is to reach consensus between the parties. Arbitration will normally be conducted in neutral space, preferably somewhere out in nature, although this is not always crucially necessary. In every case, the mediators will ask each of the parties to submit to the ruling of the chosen counsel presiding over the case. Each party has the right to appoint a representative to speak on its behalf, while an appointed administrative secretary records the court's proceedings for clarification and future reference if necessary. If a fact is disputed, its veracity must be obtained by the testimony of a minimum of 3 witnesses. If this cannot be done, an oath must be sworn. Should proceedings become heated, the presiding lead counselor may order a recess, wherein both parties discuss issues relating to the case in small informal groups. Once the mediation has been decided, an appeal may be requested, although this must be agreed to by all parties. However, where possible, community disputes are actively encouraged to be settled outside of legal bounds by way of less formal, intimate family convention. Customary law. The Kingdom of Pineal's tribunal system is based on the foundation of our founding tenets and moral laws. Ideologically, our tribunal form of administration is based on a customary laws system of governance, as this form of judicial governance is closest in alignment with our ideals. The Kingdom of Pineal refers to customary law as the legal systems and practices uniquely belonging to our founding tenets and moral laws. These Pineal tenets and laws are in place to help regulate human behavior, mandate specific sanctions for non-compliance, and connect people with the land and with each other through a system of relationships. The Kingdom of Pineal prefers to refer to its customary judicial practices as laws rather than laws. The difference being laws are enforced rules that are changeable with trends and or popular opinion, whereas the word law, which used to refer to the indigenous customary system, is a set of practices learned from childhood that dictate how a society must interact with the land, kinship, and community. Customary laws are central to the very identity of the kingdom's peoples and local communities, defining rights, obligations, and responsibilities of custodian members relating to important aspects of their lives, cultures, and worldviews. Customary law can relate to use of and access to natural resources, rights, and obligations relating to custodianship of land, inheritance and property, conduct of spiritual life, maintenance of cultural heritage and knowledge systems, and many other matters. Maintaining customary law is crucial for the continuing vitality of the intellectual, cultural, and spiritual life and heritage of the kingdom's principles and local communities. All efforts must always be prioritized to safeguard and protect against the misuse and misappropriation of the kingdom's customary laws, tenets, and spiritual laws. Penal system. Within the Kingdom of Pineal, crimes are defined in terms of being transgressions against the trust bestowed upon that individual as a custodian member of the kingdom's society. Justice is directed in the form of energy and/or time compensation to the victim, as the Kingdom of Pineal officially recognizes time and energy as the most valuable commodity of currency. If the accused is found guilty, some form of time and energy restitution must be compensated to the benefit of the community. In some cases, community counselors may advise that neither side seeks restitution. In cases where restitution is required but cannot be given, rehabilitation of the offender through counsel and stewardship is considered. There is no concept of imprisonment within the Kingdom of Pineal. In extreme cases, temporary restrainment may be called upon whilst adjudication is being administered. In such cases, this temporary restrainment should always be conducted with honor and respect in alignment with the kingdom's tenets and laws. In extreme rare cases, where an offender cannot provide adequate restitution or achieve adequate rehabilitation, the highest order of restitution is called upon: banishment from the kingdom. The verdict of banishment is enforced by all able-bodied clansmen within the area wherein the verdict is to be executed. Customary lore forms an intrinsic part of the Pineal social, political, and economic systems and way of life. What characterizes customary lore is precisely that it consists of a group of customs in the form of spiritual tenets and laws which are recognized and shared collectively by the custodian members of the Kingdom of Pineal. This is in contrast with written laws emanating from a centralized, constituted political authority, the application of which is in the hands of that authority, generally the administrative state. Customary lore is thus the key potential element of a holistic approach that may include customary lores and spiritual laws and protocols as part of a wider set of tools for protecting and maintaining balance with local communities and the greater kingdom at large. Upholding the kingdom's customary lores, spiritual tenets, and laws serves as a basis for sustainable community-based development, strengthened community identity, and promotion of cultural diversity. It also serves as a distinct source of established, recognized order, legally binding on custodian members within the kingdom's collective communal structures, as well as on individuals outside the community circle but within the kingdom.